Hello and welcome to Cavs Daily, your one-stop shop for everything Cavs related, the good, the bad, the ugly. This is the place for it. I'm your host, Paul Williams. Appreciate you being here with me today. Hope you will subscribe and come along for the journey as we push towards the regular season. Now, just over 30 days out. We will be here every day until the season starts and all the way through it, talking about all the highs, all the lows, the ups, the downs throughout the season. Hopefully, a lot more ups and highs. But either way, this is the place to talk about it. And if you ever have opinions, we'll get those put out on this show as well. Now, before we get started with the Cavs stuff today, I do have to give a shout out to the neighbor Cleveland Guardians, who are doing a lot of special things right now as they just wrapped up a 3-game sweep of the Detroit Tigers, including a win today against Detroit Tiger ace Tarek Skubal. The Tribe is now only 3.5 games back of the Tigers for the division and only 3 games in the loss column after being as many as 15.5 games behind just a couple months ago. And then after cutting that to 7 or 8, fell back 13 games behind just weeks ago and now have cut that deficit to 3 and they are on the verge of making real history, becoming the first team to ever erase a division deficit that large. The Yankees erased a 14-game deficit in 1978, and I know the Boston Braves blew a big division lead a long, long time ago, but what the Guardians are doing right now is truly special. They're just continuing what they've done for years and years now, which is always find a way to compete, find a way to win, and just always represent the city well and show a grit and a fight that this other Cleveland team just never seems to show and always does the exact opposite, finds a way to lose. But we're not here to talk about them, and I'm not going to say any names, but it's not the Cavs, so you can do the math on that. But yeah, kudos to the Guardians. Good luck the rest of the way, and no matter what, we appreciate you, and the city of Cleveland and definitely Cavs Daily are rooting for you. Now, to the Cavs and the main topics of the day. We're going to start with a little comparison of the future and the past, as I want to talk a little bit about what the matchup would look like if the 2025 version of the Cavs played the 2007 version with the young LeBron, Big Z, Drew Gooden, Larry Hughes, Damon Jones, Donyell Marshall, all those guys. What would that matchup look like? Who would win? We're going to talk about it now. And just off the bat, when you have even a young LeBron James, it's still a big advantage. So that's what the '07 team has going for them. But also, while you might hear revisionist history about, oh, LeBron carried all these dead bodies to the finals, that's cap. I'm telling you right now, that's cap. The 2007 Cavs, who made the finals, LeBron's first finals run before losing to the San Antonio Spurs, were a good team. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league year after year during that time. And they were well respected by the teams around the league. I know the narrative looks good that LeBron just did everything and no one else contributed. But, I mean, they had a great front court with guys like Big Z, Anderson Varejao, Drew Gooden, Donyell Marshall off the bench that could shoot. They had shooters around LeBron for the first time like Boobie Gibson, Donyell Marshall, and Larry Hughes was a solid shooter. But they just didn't have that co-star or superstar next to LeBron, and that was the biggest issue. Larry Hughes was supposed to be the co-star, as we signed him to a huge contract after coming off a career year where he averaged 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, was all defensive team. He was supposed to be that piece. He just never really turned into it, but he was still a solid player for the Cavs. Don't get it twisted. Now, when it comes to how they'd match up with this version of the Cavs, I do think there would be some problems for the '07 team. I think Big Z, while definitely a Cavs legend, was later in his career at the time, and I just don't know how he'd keep up with Jared Allen or if he got switched on to Evan Mobley. There's just no way. If Evan Mobley pulled him away from the basket, it'd be a real problem for that '07 team. And the 2025 Cavs team just has too much firepower. While they might have took a little step back defensively last year, and the '07 team was just about as good defensively. The Cavs just had too many other guys, or the Cavs just have too many guys right now that can beat you and that could put 30 on your head on any given night. So while I do really respect the '07 team and they had a fun team, even with guys like Boobie Gibson who played a huge role on their run to the final, especially in that Detroit series, I just don't think they have enough to beat this present team. But I just need to get the truth out that the 2017 was not a team full of bums. It wasn't the craziest carry job of all time. Yes, LeBron James obviously did what superstars does and put up great numbers and helped lead his team to the finals. But there were other players that definitely stepped up, and without the defense and the system that they ran, they weren't going to have nearly the success they had. So stop hating on the '07 team, but they're not beating this 20. I do think the 25 version could have a big advantage with Evan Mobley guarding LeBron James. Even though obviously LeBron's still going to get his, I do think Evan could cause some problems and maybe force LeBron to play with the ball out of his hands more and make other guys work a little harder to score. If the Cavs did go a little bigger and start DeAndre Hunter or Dean Wade to have them guard Kevin Love and then keep Jared Allen on Tristan Thompson while Evan guards LeBron, I think that could cause some matchup problems for the 2016 team. Both 16 and 25 had deep benches that I think would kind of equal each other out. 16 came with guys like Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, one of either Amon Shumpert or J.R. Smith, whoever didn't start. Deladova was still there. I think they'd match up well with Lonzo and Larry Nance and Sam Merrill, all the guys coming off our bench. So I think that kind of equals out. I think it'd be a great matchup and better than some people may believe. I think a lot of people would quickly lean to the 2016 team, and they did have a prime LeBron who was like at the top of his powers, and they were a championship caliber team. So I would give them the nod as well. I'm not going to say I wouldn't, but I do think it'd be closer than people realize. If they played a 7-game series, I think it'd go all 7, but I'd slightly give it to the 2016 team at the moment. So to wrap those two segments up, I guess the present team, I have them beating the '07 squad, but barely losing to the 2016 team. All three versions were Cavs great, great. Put them in the rafter type versions. So there's no knock on any of these Cavs renditions, but yeah, I don't think 25 would be able to beat the 2016 team with all the weapons that they had. Now, to kind of bring us back to the present a little bit, let's dive into a little more about the NBA Cup, which really is just around the corner as it starts just like a week after the season starts. The Cavs will kick off their NBA Cup group stage play on October 31st, Halloween, as they will welcome in the Toronto Raptors. Every group stage game the Cavs play will be on a Friday. They'll play the Washington Wizards on November 7th in Washington. Then they'll play their next game at home on November 21st against the Pacers, and they'll wrap up group play on November 28th in Atlanta. Interesting group of teams that the Cavs will be going up against. I do think that they'll have more success this year than they did last year, as they didn't get out of group play. I think they'll take care of business for the most part, but there are a few games that scare me out of those four games. First, right off the bat, I do think they'll handle business in Washington. I think they'll blow them out by 20 plus. And when they host the Pacers, I think that's another comfortable win. But the October 31st game against the Raptors, think that could be a game that could be a little more tricky than the Cavs realize. And also the 28th in Atlanta. The Cavs had some trouble with Atlanta last year, and if they start off 3-0 in their first group stage games, I think they might take their foot off the gas a little bit in that game. So that could be a bit of a trap game. But I do feel that the Cavs should at least go 3-1 in group play. Honestly, they should go 4-0 and punch their ticket with a perfect record. But that's sometimes easier said than done. And just because they're the best team in the group doesn't mean that they're going to win every game or even win the group. It's not how it's worked out so far in the past two NBA Cups, and it's not guaranteed to work out that way this year. But with the Raptors, Wizards, Pacers, and Hawks, I do feel good about the Cavs advancing out of group play and making it into the next round. But there will be some interesting games mixed in there, and I am very excited for that Raptors game and then to see the Cavs against the Hawks, who we're actually going to talk a little bit about right now in the final segment of the day. The Atlanta Hawks have been getting a lot of buzz this year, especially with the additions of Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Kennard, and hoping for good health from Jalen Johnson. The Hawks do have a good squad. I'm not going to lie and say they don't. I won't take anything away from them there, but I think they've been super overhyped so far. I don't think by any means they have the type of team that is ready to like really be a threat in the East to make it out of the East, even though some pundits are saying they're a top 3 or 4 team. I mean, they do have a good squad. Trey Young, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, that's their core. They have some young guys that they're counting on to take a step. They have the number one pick from a year ago, Zachariah. And they also have the center, Akangwu, who is a good player as well. But I just don't see it. I don't trust Trey Young in big moments, even though you see the highlights of the playoff run he had in 2001, but you don't see the lowlights where he turns the ball over all the time, makes bad decisions, takes bad shots in crunch time, holds the ball way too long. And if that's going to be the guy that we have to worry about most, I do think the Cavs will be fine. I do think, though, that the Hawks have a few traits that could give the Cavs problems. And it showed a little bit last season as the Hawks beat the Cavs on a back-to-back in late November, which ended up being only the second and third loss of the season for the Cavs. So after going 18-1, I believe, the Hawks beat the Cavs twice, which does say something. I mean, the Hawks have the length and the size and that prototype of player that just gives the Cavs problems, like a Jalen Johnson or Dyson Daniels. Luckily, we were able to snatch one of those guys from the Hawks when we got DeAndre Hunter last season. And both guys we traded for DeAndre Hunter are no longer on the Hawks, as both Karis LeVert and George Niang have moved on. So they kind of lost a piece without gaining anything, and we got that piece. So that really helps shore up some of those problems. But that length can be an issue for the Cavs, and the speed, and when those type of guys are all locked in on defense, that does give the Cavs and the offense that they run problems as well. So I'm not trying to say the Hawks are a cakewalk matchup for the Cavs specifically. I just don't think they're that close to being an elite tier team in the East yet. And I think if the Cavs played them in a 7-game series, they'd take care of them in 5 games, I believe. Even though, like in a regular season matchup or in group play, the Hawks could give the Cavs some problems. But if it came down to a NBA playoff game when it slows down and it's a lot more half court offense and it's just a different, more physical game, I think the Cavs would be okay against them, especially since they did lose Hunter last year. Unless Zachariah takes a big leap, that could play a big factor in what the Hawks do this season. But I'm not really worried about them. I do think they could be a solid second round team, maybe, but I think that's their ceiling, and don't think they're much for the Cavs to worry about this coming season. With that, another episode is in the books. I again appreciate you guys so much for joining along and staying with me throughout this video. If you could help me push to 100 subscribers, I'd really appreciate it. And if you could, meet me back here at the same time tomorrow. Until then, guys, have a great day. Thanks again.